you very much. I'm Esther Woo, the Deputy University Librarian of Hong Kong U. And today I'm going to share with you our library's journey using our library resources and facilities to inspire teaching and learning of SDG to the whole community. So thanks to the keynote speaker and the other speakers before me, they have explained a lot about two very far-reaching ways of design thinking and SDG in the last few sections. And now I'm going to talk about how the libraries actually ride on these waves and try to experiment some of our new approaches in designing our new services to support SDG in our teaching, learning, and research of the community. So here you can see is a crossover of two different big waves, and it forms a very interesting pattern. And for using design thinking and SDG in our service design process, we believe we would bring to the world a much better kind of services and facilities so that our community can enjoy and take their teaching, learning, and research even further from beyond the current level. So to start the journey, actually in about 4 years ago, there was a seminar organized by the Hong Kong Library Association and the Goethe Institute of Hong Kong, inviting a very famous design thinking director from Germany, Professor Eric Weinberg from the Hassel-Platter Institute of Germany. And he actually shared not just one seminar, but a series of talks to a lot of librarians in Hong Kong and also other kinds of audience. And that kind of starts our journey of integrating design thinking in the library field. And in the following year, 2018, there was another sharing from the International Federation of Library Association and Institute from a lady from the headquarters, and her name was, let me check, she's, from the headquarters, and she's doing 2 days of design SDG sharing to help the libraries understand how we can integrate our service provision and facility design to support the SDG goals of our community. So, as you can see, SDG has been integrating into our services after all these different teaching learning opportunities. And we understand that nowadays there are a lot of open resources around the world provided by different institutions so that librarians, educators, and also the general community members can make use of when they integrate the SDG goals into their daily activities. And there is also a very interesting website maybe you would like to visit. It's the Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World. Even though you are, say, staying at home in your couch, you're going beyond your residence and go to work, you can still do a lot of things to make some difference. And together with all of us doing a little bit of efforts to support SDG, it would make a big difference for the whole world. So I understand that our audience include a lot of colleagues from different levels of the educational field. So the libraries field actually did a lot of things in the past few years in support of SDG. And if you would like to take a look at the efforts contributed by different library associations, here are some links to be shared. But if you are more interested in getting into, say, some kind of tools, you can visit the IFLA website and the CLIP from the UK Library Association. They also did a report on the roles of libraries in contributing to the delivery of SDGs for all the library professionals. So I'm going to share with you a little bit how the Hong Kong U Library experiments our design thinking process to integrate SDG. And a little bit different from what our keynote speaker Cesar and also Louisa just talked about. I would elaborate a little bit on how we assess our SDG efforts after the provision of our new services and facilities, which will be forming part of the design thinking process. So as you may be now more familiar, all of us will start the process by emphasizing and defining the problems of our, say, users of some new services. And in the case of Hong Kong U, our libraries will have to start by defining the needs of our community from the university's teaching, learning, and research perspective. And we are very lucky to have the Sustainability Office as a dedicated department on campus to guide us in this direction. So as you can see, they have emphasized a lot on waste management, the carbon emissions and footprint, and also the sustainability strategy up to 2030, which are equivalent to the SDGs of the UN. And every year, the Sustainability Office requires every department on campus to report on what we have done in support of sustainability on campus. So what the library have done in the past actually can explain to you a little bit on how we make use of the design thinking process. For example, like in a few years ago, we start relegating some of our less used materials and those materials with electronic versions to a remote partner in Malaysia that helps to reduce the waste of any used materials in our process of managing our collections. And we also start realizing that scanning has become a very important need for our library users. So apart from the normal scanners attached to our workstations, we have introduced some express scanners, trying to reduce the number, the length of time our users need to wait for scanning their materials. And that helps to reduce a lot of printing in the end. So it's also a kind of design thinking process by observing the needs of our users and then adjusting our service model and facility provision to meet the need in support of SDG. And another relevant initiative is the introduction of duplex printing in a few years ago. And we need to advocate the service by making some adjustment of our service provision. And in this case, we have used an incentive by discount rate to encourage duplex printing, which has helped us to increase the to modify the behavior of our users a lot, according to our statistics. And we also encourage the use of online registration forms and library surveys to reduce the use and consumption of our print materials. And it also, in the other way, help to reduce the staff time in managing all these print materials during the process, and even increase the accuracy. And that all helps the community to save a lot of effort. And we also encourage our patrons to use reusable bottles. And with that, we actually introduce a lot of water dispensers in the libraries. We are actually, I guess, the main center of providing water dispensers across the whole community. And we have been collaborating with the Sustainability Office a lot in this aspect. And another very major effort of the libraries in doing support for SDG is the increasing spending on our electronic contents. So you can see, starting from almost 2 decades ago, 20 years ago, 2001, we've been spending on electronic resources. And in those years, we only spent about 1/10 of our budget on that. But now we have spent over almost 90%. So you can see we save a lot of paper and also encourage the users to make use of electronic resources a lot that can even change their behavior. And for the next stage of the design thinking process, we have to ideate and prototype a lot of our surface during the design process. And first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about the physical environment and event management. As you can see, this is a new learning space introduced in the libraries last year called Ingenium, which is also the event venue for today. And I would really like to invite all of you to take a look at our Ingenium facilities by our web if you are not able to visit our libraries in the near future. And you can see we have explained to our users why we put this learning space in place. It's because we really want to invite our community to make use of their design and also to support SDG kind of activities by collaborating in a space like this. And we use a cycle to design our space from the beginning with our library team and the architect. As you can see, we have divided the space into several zones so as to inspire our users using a lot of technology like AI and VR and IoT. And then they can move on to conceptualize their ideas by working in some collaborative space, rooms, and also then visualize their ideas using a lot of facilities in our digital library innovation center. And they can also do a lot of production using 3D printers, scanners, and design software-equipped workstations and cutters, and a lot of things we try to bring into the library, which are very different from the ordinary setting. And then the last but not least, like what Cesar just explained to you all, we need to share. So we do have a very large exhibition area to share the ideas and showcase the successful story of our users in their teaching, learning, and research. So here are some very different kinds of events we host in the Ingenium area in the last more than 1 year of time. So this is a project home improvement exhibition using AR technology, which is very related to SDG 11. This is another sustainable Sunday couture organized by a lot of Filipino domestic workers. We are using recycling materials for fashion design. And another collaborative event took place in our herb garden just outside the main library, which engaged a lot of community members, including the Sustainability Office and our General Education Unit. And our very famous therapy dog Jasper sections are also held in our learning space and the libraries, and also all over the campus, which is actually a very successful program that helped to promote good health and also to advocate our understanding on how to protect the animals throughout different courses of our lifetime, including our study in the university. And another way of doing ideation and prototyping is the use of virtual environment and resources. So we have now put up some reading lists virtually for supporting SDG. And then we have all these kind of new initiative in the web page shown here. And last but not least is the assessment. Nowadays, we have a lot of, say, different kind of measurement for our success of this initiative. And one that we just realized is a lot of our research, say, product provider, they have integrate in their research tools a lot of methodology for us to measure the successfulness of our research and other kind of activities for the university. So the library will play a very major role in that kind of support to let our university and our community members to measure their success in SDG provisions. And a few last reflection from the libraries in doing all these kind of new initiatives is to really understand our service recipient, and first of all, focus on a few SDGs and make use of our resources available creatively and not to invest too much at the beginning, given our very limited resources, and also understand our strengths and put our efforts into the right direction to build successful stories. And then last but not least, to join force with our colleagues on campus and beyond and learn from each other and make the best use of our efforts and expertise. So I thank you for your attention, and I'll then leave the time to the next speaker. Thank you.